pleasure to be here today again to talk about a very important topic. I've been thinking about this topic for quite a while, what I'm going to present to you. And I know many of you are scholars, you're professionals in different fields of studies, and you know how to manage your day-to-day activities already. You already have your routine. So I thought maybe it might be more interesting to do something more practical. So something that we all together we engage in order to see how are we actually doing. How is it for us to manage our day-to-day activities? What are the things that we need to do in order to make our life more productive, so to say? Of course, I prepare a very short slide, which I would like to share with you. Just a moment. So I titled the presentation Managing You and trying to build self-management skills for personal work. And my name is Adekunle Adedeji. I'm a researcher, I'm also a coach, and I'm currently holding a Fridolin Research Fund from the Humboldt Stiftung. Okay, now, today's presentation, I try to break it down into three categories. The first part is a social support network. What role do they play in us building self-management skills or having a balanced personal or work life? And also, what are the necessary steps in developing the plans that actually work? And then I'd like us to work on a little exercise together. It's called the WOP. That we'll do at the end to round things up. Like I said, you all have routines. You have things that you know you need to do, you know how you need to do them. And sometimes we have challenges in actually meeting our expectation, meeting the goals that we set for ourselves, especially as scientists. Maybe some of you are working in your master's thesis on your PhD and you're frustrated. I have colleagues that we started our PhD together 8 years on, they're still working on it, 6, 7 years, they're still on it. And they have many complaints, they have many things to do on the side. Maybe you feel overwhelmed as well. I always say the first thing to do when you feel overwhelmed or when you think you don't have a plan that works is to look at that plan itself. And that is what I want us to go through together today. So I try to summarize some of the important things that are involved when we try to make a plan regarding work or personal life in order to make things work. The first and the most important thing why many plan fails is because there is a failure in terms of managing the planning process. For us to make a plan that works, we have a goal, we have something that we want to achieve. Managing the planning to reach that goal itself, it's one of the very crucial points or crucial thing to do in order to make sure that that goal that we hope to accomplish at the end, that we actually have the capacity, that we have the will and the strength and all that it requires in order to achieve this goal. And this next step is conducting situation assessment. Each of these steps are very in-depth. We don't have time to go through it, but I'll just try to press around. I'll be happy to go back to them and then we can talk about it again more in depth. The second point is to conduct a situation assessment. Many people call this problem assessment, but I prefer to call it situation assessment because sometimes when you look around what you want to plan towards, you realize that you have some things that are working at your advantage. Maybe the situation, political situation in the country, maybe your financial positioning, your job that you have at the moment, you have a boss that is very supportive. So it's always important to look at your situation, the situation where you find yourself, where you're making this plan in order to achieve whatever that you want to achieve. Then identify what are the goals, the outcome, and the outcome objective of the things that you intend to achieve. What are the strategies, the activity, the output, what are the process objective and the resources that you need to achieve these things. Another very thing that people make a lot of mistake is after having plans that will fail to have indicators to indicate how we're making progress. So for example, I want to finish my thesis in 2 months. So 2 months, thesis is done. But what are the things that I have to do? What are the indicators that I'm on the right path between now and the next 2 months? So it's very important to also have indicators that let you know how far are you along the way, and also, and finally, to review the planning process. So these are the things that are very important in making plans that actually could work. And I'll try to build the presentation today around this 6 steps. So another thing that I found very important, like I said, I'm not going into details of any of this. I'm just going to talk on it on the surface, and later on at the end of the presentation with the exercise we have, we'll try to see if we can put everything together in one piece. So another thing that is very important when we're trying to build skills that help us to have a good work balance, aside from the plans that we make, is to actually understand the kind of social supports that we have around us. What are the supports that you have? So many times we have plans that doesn't work. We get frustrated, we get nervous, anxious, and this is very normal. And these are the times when we need to fall back to the kind of supports that we have around us. And often I've talked to many people, the problem that we have when we get into this situation is that we actually don't understand the support. We're not able to kind of categorize or kind of build groups of the supports that we have. And so I talked about this. What do we actually mean when we talk about social support? As a professional scholars, I thought maybe I go a little bit more into the professional part, and social support is something that comes from stress and network research from the social epidemiology and medical psychology, sociology field. So it is something that is not, it's not just something that is social, it's something that has been very well researched, that has been proven to be very crucial, not just for our day-to-day activity, but to having a very good and effective, to learning something new in order to be productive in your day-to-day activities, to be happy with your life. And these are kind of verbal and non-verbal information or advice. They are things that you get from people or action that provide from people who are socially close to you, or people that kind of that are able to influence your social decision. I like to work very much with this example because the mistake many of us make when we think about our social cycle is that they are all the same. It's a permanent. I have a group of friends that always help me out when I have a problem. And that itself, this mentality is the problem itself. If you have a piece of paper with you, maybe we can do a very small exercise together. So this model of social support kind of projects how social support should look like anytime that we need, or that we need to access or to use those supports for to develop new skills in order to make sure that our life is going on track as we want it. And in the middle of our social support is always you, me in this case. And there are different layers of the support that we have. We have a network support that is always very important. We have the ones that are moderately important, and we always have the ones that are less important. If my friend is always able to assist me with everything that I want, everything that I need, then probably the things that I need or that I want, they are not good enough for me, because every individual has their skills. They have their own set of skills that they're able to provide for us when we need them in certain situations. So like I said, it's very important to look at every situation and then to see what are the social supports, the network that I have. Right? I'll just like to make an example of myself. Um, uh, my job currently, I lead a research project. So I currently have a challenge getting some of the people of my team to do what I expect them to do. So, and this is kind of stressing me out. So I want to use my network to influence, to make sure that things are working the way I want it. So it will be very important to first kind of understand what is my network for this particular problem. What are the things, who are those that are very important that can play a role in me influencing those people who are not contributing their quota or mind group? Who are those that are moderately important? Who are those that are less important? And the only thing that is constant in this cycle is you. Depending on the problem, depending on the situation where you find yourself, it's always important to note that those people that are very important for one situation might be less important for another situation. So having this understanding already gives us a skill to solve many problems, because every individual has their own skill set. And then you being able to identify individual with their own skill set already puts you on an advantage. When you need to tap into your network, you're able to identify who to go to in order to reach a certain outcome. Um, Another thing that I usually like to do is also, sorry? Okay, sorry. Yeah. So another thing that I always like to do is also to work with this network card. Anytime that I have a critical decision to make, I try to look at who and what in my immediate environment has a role or plays a very important role in my decision making or in the decision that I'm about to make. One thing, this is an example. Um, One thing that you can always do for yourself as well is it doesn't have to be like this, to have a kind of graphics or kind of written down something not just in your head, something that you can actually look into in order to understand, okay, if I have to categorize everyone that is important in my life right now into different categories, how many categories am I going to have? Who knows who what has something to do with who? For example, in this, you can see the triangle in the middle, that is me. So I try to put the people in my family under the family, and based on how close they are to me, I place them closer to me in my cycle. So the round ones are the females, the triangle are the males, the direct lines are those who have direct relationship, the broken lines means there was a relationship, but the relationship is not as strong. The ones without connection, that I know they're not connection. You can do it with names. This kind of graphics gives you, even though it looks very simple, it looks very childish, but it helps you to have a very good overview of the people you have in your life that plays an important role when it comes to decision making. These little things are things that actually do count when we want to try to build new skills. We don't need to learn everything. We just need to know someone needs something. Of course, we need to know something as well, but we live in a very digitalized world that we're able to contact, to tap into resources that are not necessarily ours. So, and utilizing that actually kind of make you to spend into learning new things, but rather tapping into those people who already know those things. So that was the second example. Another thing that I always find very useful is, like I mentioned earlier on, that the six important steps to planning. The first one was to making the plan, managing the planning process. So it's always important to look into allies. For example, if we have something that we want to do at work, to also look and create a kind of visualization, kind of project that are important. Okay, so if I want to make a decision at work, who do I have to involve? Who has to be part of the decision? Who is supported? For example, if I say, okay, I'm working on my PhD, and I'm not very satisfied with my topic, who are those people that I know that I have to involve? Who are the core people that are involved in this project? Who are those that are supportive? For example, my family. I don't want to continue working on the PhD because it's too much stress for me. I know they've been supportive. How much do I have to involve them in this decision? So So as you can see, the visualization is broken down into different categories: government, private sector, community, grassroots, and you can also include as much as possible. But having this kind of categories is also very important so that you won't break any chain of command, so that it gives you, it helps you to present yourself in a well professional manner. So you know that, okay, if this person is doing this thing or this person is doing this thing, I know I have to inform this person in certain parts of my career or my decision making. Well, time is going very fast. I think I can skip. Okay, we can talk about this. So another thing that I thought maybe it's worth talking about that I highlighted from the presentation is, remember I talked about doing some situational assessment. Mistake that many people make when it comes to assessment is that we always look at the negative things, and we also won't look at it in terms of ourselves. When we try to gather data or a kind of interpret the things that are happening around us, it's also important to see the positive as well as the negative. So when we want to make a new plan, when we want to make a new decision about a PhD, we want to make about the research, about work, about changing job, it's always important to look at it in these four different categories. First, the individual level. What are the risk factors? If I want to change my job, what are the risks that are assigned to it? Probably financial risk. Am I going to get a new job very fast? And also to look at the positive parts of it. What are the resilience? What are my personal strengths? I know I'm good at convincing people to give me a job, so I know that I can get the job. And then we go again to the next level, the organizational stress, part level. What are the gaps? What are the lack of resources? What are the things that are we lacking? And then on the other side, we want to look, okay, what are the things that I have? What are the partnership? What are the social network that I have? Who has what competence? Who work with what company? Who is able to give me access to what resources? So while we look at the negative, it's always important to also make the negative, the positive. Also the community work condition, what is the access that I have in my community in terms of the society, what are the threats, as well as what are the opportunities. So I have rushed through quite a lot of details and tried to jump from one thing to another, but I hope it makes quite a little bit of sense to you. If you have any question, I'll be happy to address them now before we do a small exercise. Any question? No. Okay, so lastly for today, I thought it might be nice to do something a little bit more practical, something that might be maybe helpful for us in real life. I don't know if you've heard about the WOP. It's a very scientific method in order to um, kind of see what are the problems as attached with achieving a particular plan. So what I want you to do, I want you to do me a favor. I want us to kind of go through this work together and see if it's actually practical. I want everyone, if you have a sheet of paper with you, that's perfect. If you don't, if you can just grab one in few seconds, that would be great. So I want us to start with the first part of the work, which is the wish. So if you are to look at yourself, if you think about the things that you want in your life, if you are to wish for just one thing that is achievable, that within the next 2 weeks, what would that be? So I want you to take 1 minute and think about that. If you have to wish for one thing that is achievable within the next 2 weeks, what would that be? Just write that down on a sheet of paper within the few seconds. Just take 1 minute and think about it and write something down. So maybe we can go to the next one. If you think about this wish of yours, what would be the best outcome possible? What would be the best thing that would happen if this thing, if your wish come to pass, what would be the best outcome possible for you? Think about that for a few seconds and try to write that down as well. If that thing that you wish for, if you were to achieve it, what would be the best possible outcome? Okay, now we'll go to the third one. So now you know what you wish for. You have an idea of what it will look like when you achieve what you wish for when it actually happens. What kind of obstacle do you think can hinder you from achieving your wish? What do you think can happen that will stop you from achieving your wish? Try to put down 2 or 3 of those obstacles, or just one, or as much as you can within the next few seconds. Time is not on our side. I would have loved to take at least 2 minutes so that you have time to reflect on those things. Try to think about those things that you want to achieve, what you wished for, what are the obstacles that could hinder you from achieving them.
I'm sorry to cut in, Dr. Adedeji. I think because we took a bit longer with the previous workshop, we can also take some time with this one. So I don't think there's a need to rush at all. Like, we can be here past 8:30. As I understand, we have at least 10 minutes extra time. So you can take your time.
Okay, so we can, okay. So try to take your time. Oh, and someone just wrote in the chat, there is a breaking news. The Queen Elizabeth has passed away, just so that you know.
May her soul rest in peace, I guess.
The Queen of England. So
Yeah.
just broke the news to you as well. So got to concentrate, I guess. So I want us to go back to what we're working on. So we've talked about the things that we wish for. Maybe it's just you able to submit an assignment or able to send a number of application. The best outcome. We've talked about that as well. Now I want you to take 1 to 2 minutes to reflect about those things and write down what are the obstacles that could prevent you from achieving those wishes. Now we'll go to the last part. What in order to overcome those obstacles? What is within your ability to do? What are the things? Think about the social network, the social support we talked about. What are the things that you can do in order to overcome those obstacles? If you had more than one obstacles, then maybe you can put it in this form. If this can happen, then I do this in order to overcome the obstacles. Try to think about different things that you can do to overcome those obstacles. And then we can review that plan all together and go through your wishes. Maybe we can have 2 or 3 people present their wish. And if you feel comfortable enough to do so, present your wish, the outcome and the obstacles and how you intend to overcome them. So think about those obstacles and then try to write down what are the things that you can do in order to overcome those obstacles. If A happens, then I do B. So take the next 1 to 2 minutes as well in order to write that down. Okay, so I would like to have 1 or 2 volunteers that maybe would like to share their wish with us, the outcome, the obstacles, and what plans they have to overcome these obstacles. And then we can then round it up, try to put everything together, and hopefully it make more sense. Any volunteer?
So I could start. If we have no volunteers, maybe I encourage people to
Yeah,
to me. Okay. So I am doing my PhD in the field of DNA nanotechnology. And right now I'm trying to make some fibers, some DNA fibers. So what I wish to achieve in the next 2 weeks is to make this DNA fibers. Well, I've been able to make them, but I wish to be able to visualize them. Now, I used another method to visualize them before, about 2 weeks ago, no, last week. But it's not such an optimal method, and I needed another labeling method. Now, this labeling method, I literally just ordered it 2 days ago, and I have a very personal deadline at the end of September. So when you order DNA strands, it takes about 10 days to 2 weeks, sometimes 3 weeks to arrive. So it's getting very tight. So my wish is to be able to visualize this with the new labeling method that I just ordered, but I really have a time crunch on me because I have till the 25th of September to be out of the lab. Well, it's not a fixed deadline. I could still work after, but it's a personal deadline that I've set. So the best possible outcome would be that I can finish this paper if I'm able to visualize my fibers, because it's the only thing left for the paper. What obstacle could hinder me from achieving my wish? This would be the company that is producing the labeling strand, honestly. I don't know what else could stand in the way. Of course, you could have some very natural causes. I don't know, I could fall ill or something. But as far as I can see right now, it is if the company just decides to take much longer than they normally would, which would be like 10 days to 2 weeks on a normal base. What plan do I have to overcome this obstacle? Honestly, not a lot. I am kind of in their hands because I don't have, it's a company, right? You can't like hasten them up. I don't know anyone who works there. Even if I did, it probably wouldn't change anything. So yeah.
Yeah, that is actually a very perfect example. So because many times we see the obstacles as something that is out of our hand, and we think we can't actually do something to overcome it, which is most of the cases not true. If we look at your example, if we try to go through it again, so the best possible outcome would be for you to finish your paper.
Yes.
The obstacle is, yes, so the obstacle is that the complaint might not be able to produce those DNAs on time in order for you to finish your work in lab and then finish the paper.
Yes.
But if the DNA is produced later on, you can still finish your paper. So the plan, the P part is where we make the plan to overcome those obstacles and still to reach the outcome. So regardless of the obstacles or the bumps we have on the way there, it is always important to always channel a plan that leads us to where we want to get to. Even though that is why we have to list the obstacle. Okay, we know the obstacle is there. There is a chance that the company will not finish that DNA. And like you said, this is a self-set deadline. So would it be possible if the company does not present the DNA until that time, then maybe you have a vacation plan for afterwards, then I'll have to shift my vacation and make a plan in order to write the paper a day longer, 2 days longer, 1 week longer. So having this wish and a plan that makes it work, regardless of the obstacle, its work makes it outstanding, because we know that regardless of how much we wish for things, there are often things that stand in the way. But having a plan that leads to the end result is what makes a plan a plan. So I would really recommend, I would suggest that you look at your plan again. Why do you have this self-made deadline? Why is it very important to you? If it doesn't work, what will be the impacts on your mental health? Will you be stressed out? Is it important for you to have a backup plan? If yes, how should that backup plan look like? Are there people that you have to involve in this plan? You want to be out of the lab by a particular day. If you are not out of the lab by that day, are there people that you have to involve? Who are those that are important in that position? Who do you have to carry along and things like that? So it's always important to look at things a little bit broader in that sense, and to always make plans regardless of the obstacle that leads you to your best possible outcome. Um, that is real life. I know sometimes we are very overwhelmed with the things we have to do, that we don't really have the time to go through them in very much details. But doing that consciously, trying to take some conscious efforts to kind of plan through to make a roadmap through to the outcome, actually gives you psychological control. It gives you some kind of self-assurance. It helps you to build some self skills that help you to balance your life and your work. Because you know, regardless of the way I'm going to get to the plan, I know if this doesn't work, then I have to do this, and this will be affected, but then I already know that this will be affected. So thank you very much for sharing with us. Is there anyone that would like to share maybe a second example, and then we'll round it up? Anyone?
Okay, maybe I'll just try.
Yes.
Okay, so I just started my PhD just like a month and some weeks into it. So for my PhD, I have to write 3 papers and a monogram. So what do I wish to achieve in the next 2 weeks? So understanding how to go for my first paper. I actually have a topic already, but getting to understand the methods and how to structure the various variables for the paper. Then what is the best outcome possible? The best outcome possible is to have a well-structured paper that answers my research questions. What obstacle could hinder me from achieving this? Firstly, time management, and secondly, lack of knowledge acquisition, and third, lack of determination and focus. And what plans do I have to overcome the obstacle? Create a very strict schedule, and read more and learn more skills relevant for my method and literature in general. Then the third one, listen and follow those who motivate me.
Yeah, thank you very much for sharing, Vanessa. I can really relate in your shoe. For my PhD, I had to publish and also write a monograph as well. And if I don't know your research situation, but sometimes it can be very overwhelming to find a kickstart. And I think the the obstacle that you list, they are very common obstacles for many of us right at the beginning, not knowing if the method is appropriate or then I'd like to go back to the slide here. So this is something that might be very helpful in your example. So maybe in the scientific, my knowledge of science, maybe you don't need to know everything about writing the paper. It might be just enough to kind of create or understand the network of other researchers that are around you. So you have yourself that has to finish your PhD, write your PhD, your first paper. Are there other PhD students around? Are there other researchers in your team who might be more knowledgeable about the topic that might able to help you with the analysis, with the method, or do you have a supervisor that is very active or that is less important? So first, trying to create a kind of network card or your social support card that might kind of give you some kind of overview into maybe a shortcut to overcoming those obstacles. The best possible outcome is what you want to achieve. So having a plan that doesn't overstress you, because I mean, it's nice, it's good for you to know the methods, it's good for you to know everything about the research. Sometimes it's also more effective to tap into the network that you have. It's easier to learn, you learn faster when you watch someone doing it rather than you reading about it all by yourself. So creating a plan that is very much specific, that also attaching to the network that you have around you, might be very much effective in overcoming those obstacles, especially when it comes to writing papers, and give you the jump start to finish or to write your first paper. But try to create a plan that is more specific. For example, I want to write the introduction of my paper. I want to contact person A and ask about advice on what is the best kind of method to use for this kind of paper. Try not to do everything by yourself because you have a lot of people that have different competencies. Try to tap into those competencies to your advantage. You doing that, you learn a lot, your work goes a lot faster, and everyone is happy. I would say it that way. Thank you so much for sharing. So just to round it up, I know we're way out of time. I know the topic is skill management, learning soft skills and the likes, but I know that we also have lots of information about this. So I thought giving some very basic information and also some practical hints might be more helpful in this situation. If there is any other question that you'd like to ask, maybe we have a few minutes for that. And otherwise, also feel free to write me an email. Yeah, my email is on this slide. You can write me an email. I'll be happy to answer and provide any information that I can. Yeah, so thank you very much.